you, hang on, let me get my, this is turned up all the way. That's not good. Okay. Hi, welcome to FiberLoveDiary. I'm Trisha if we haven't met, and if we have met, welcome back. So this is the channel where I document my fiber journey and obviously my relationship with my best friend. That journey has so far included weaving, crocheting, knitting, spinning, dyeing, prepping fiber from raw fleece, blending fiber, making bats, making row legs, lots of stuff. I have not done one of these in a while. Whew. Today we're gonna do a Q&A. I save up questions over like the time period since the last Q&A, and then I answer them while I'm spinning. I'm gonna be spinning on my Hanson today. I am spinning this wool, which we actually dyed here. Oh, I know, this is from the February box or the January box. This is probably from the January box. It's a sock blend from Paradise Fibers. I used the rest of it to make 2 bundles of gradient sock yarn for Valentine's Day, if you recall. I'm gonna strip this after I've unbraided it and spin it very fine. I am hoping for a 3-ply sock yarn, but I'm not really married to it. You know, things just happen. So, at least with me, I don't like to try to force it. I have printed these because trying to scroll through my phone means I have to stop and come back and stop and come back. And I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna set these next to my wheel so that I can see them, and let's answer some questions. As always, most of this is opinion or just like my preference. Doesn't mean it's everyone's preference. Just because I say like I don't think a certain wool is good for a beginner, that doesn't really mean it wouldn't be the best thing for you when you're a beginner. It's more general than that. So let's get started. First question. I am looking to get a drum carder in the summer, and I would like to be brave and prep a fleece for spinning. Do you have any recommendations for a good breed of sheep to start with? Thanks very much. As it happens, I do. We went through in the breed study quite a few different breeds, and I actually did mention a few. But I've prepped a lot of breeds of sheep. Gosh, I don't know if this is gonna make noise. My wheel might make a little bit of noise, but it should just be like a shush 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 noise. So hopefully the music will cover it. If I were doing my very first fleece, I would pick something that's less greasy. So that would normally be something like a Romney. Fins can be less greasy. What I would stay away from is a fine wool. So no merino, no cormo, no Rambouillet or Debouillet for your very first one. You can move on to that later, so don't worry, but I would not go with one of those for your first one. And then something with a longer staple would be good, and then again that covers Romney. Gosh, I'm thinking what else would I look. Oh, and then also I would pick something with very little vegetable matter. So if you have a carder, it's not gonna remove vegetable matter. Some will fall out as you pick, and some will fall out as you card, but generally a lot of it is just gonna stay in. What you really have to do if you wanna remove vegetable matter, if you get a fleece that has a ton, is either comb it or flick it. That will take it all out. And actually I am gonna be showing a quick video coming up soon on some different ways to prep a fleece with very little or no tools if you want to do one from home, and I'm using a fin. So I would say a lightly greasy, no VM fin or Romney would be really great. There are other breeds that would be really great as well, but those are 2 that I would suggest. And good luck, have fun. It's really fun. Next is, I noticed you spin with your left hand in front and then turkey hand ply with your right hand in front. Are you a lefty or a righty? I am a righty, but I grew up taking piano lessons, which by the way, I'm not very good at. I can replicate what other people write down, but I don't really have musical talent per se. There are a lot of people in my family who do, so I can see why my mom thought I might have talent, but I don't. I love music, but I don't have the talent to make it, if that makes sense. But I think that taking piano lessons taught me to use both hands more independently than a lot of people get to learn, because they have a dominant hand and, you know, they just generally use that one more times than not. And then also when I spin, I have noticed that, especially when I ply, and the turkey hand ply is the perfect example, I probably use my backhand for the turkey hand ply, sorry, more, because I'm trying to think how to explain this. Because when you are plying that way, you're really controlling two strands of tension, and you're crossing and, well, you're uncrossing them over and over your hand. So that hand is kind of doing a lot. The short answer is I'm a righty, and the long answer is when you're turkey hand plying, you're really using both your hands equally, or if anything, the raft hand maybe a little bit more. Oh my gosh, I'm wound up. This is funny. I've noticed that your dog has quite long hair. Have you ever tried to spin your dog's hair? I know some people do spin pet hair. I have not. I try to clip him before he gets really long enough to do that with, but he has extremely fine hair. I could easily use it. It dreadlocks really easily, so a lot of times when he gets clipped, all those little curls are like locked together, but I haven't. I have spun dog hair. I actually did a project for a lady in my area who has like a dog obedience, I don't think she calls it obedience, like a training class that she does, and she works with the Humane Society here. She lost a Great Pyrenees and she had a big bag of his hair. I actually filmed it, and then I don't know if you guys will remember, but so maybe a year ago I lost a bunch of footage. I actually accidentally deleted it, and I could not get it back because it was so much that it couldn't go to the recycle bin. It just bypasses the recycle bin when it's a big, huge amount of data, and I lost it. I never could go ahead and post it, but she asked me to dye it in a rainbow. When you lose a pet, a lot of people call it crossing the rainbow bridge. And so she asked me to dye it in a darker rainbow, and I did do that for her, and she had some jewelry made from it, and it's something that this way she can keep from him forever. Oh, and then when I did that, if you guys watched the last project update, I did a pair of rainbow herringbone socks, and when I dyed hers, I had some rainbow dyes that I mixed left, and I dyed that rainbow hank of yarn. So I had something for myself, but then I lost all the footage. I had a couple pictures, and that was it. I couldn't really make a video out of that, but I wanted to. But we're still in touch. Once you've spun each breed, and we're talking about the breed study here, do you wash it and make note of how the texture, etc. has changed? I have not been washing them. I'm planning to dye them all. They will all get soaked basically during the dyeing process, and I will make notes of how they're different. I'm actually planning to keep a small sample of each prior to the dyeing process, and then a small sample of each after, so that I can compare them. They'll be on a little card on the back of each breed study sheet. So I'm going to show that in that video, but I'm doing it all at once. You know, it was already kind of a lot to do each week, and I just thought it would make sense to do it all at once. I'm sure you've answered this question in a video before, but how many wheels do you have and which is your favorite? The matchless is pretty sweet looking. Okay, so I have 5. I almost bought a 6th wheel last weekend. I talked to a lady in Florida, and she had a Magicraft Rose for sale, but she did not want to ship it at first, and then she wanted to ship it, and then she said, yeah, I'll ship it, but you've got to pay an exorbitant amount of money for me to ship it. And I was like, no. I have 5. I do not have a favorite. I have favorites for different things. I really like my Ashford Traveler. It has a jumbo flyer on it, so I really like it for bulky yarns and for plying. I would say that I like my Hansen for almost anything because it's just so portable, and that's really, really awesome to just be able to throw it in a backpack and take it to spin somewhere, especially with a battery. John made me an electric wheel, which is amazing again for plying because it has a jumbo flyer on it also, and so you can just go forever on that thing. But it's not as portable because it's on a board, like a flat board, doesn't have a cover. It's not quite as protected. I like that one for that. I have my matchless, which I did the whole breed study on. It does seem like that one has like the most versatility, but it also only has little small bobbins. So I love it. It probably, aside from the electric wheels, it will spin faster than anything else. And that's also nice if I want to spin really, really fine like lace, or if I really want to spin a fine single for a sock yarn. I like them all for different things. And last, I have the Spinolution. It is a queen bee. I am not very fond of that wheel, but I feel like I can't sell it because it has problems. And I do not feel comfortable passing those problems on to someone else in the way that they were passed to me. So I guess I have a least favorite, but I don't have a favorite. I'm sure that some of you are wondering if there are any other wheels I would like and what they are. So yes, if I had the amazing deal pop up for a Magic Craft Rose, I would buy one. I had the opportunity to spin on someone's who goes to like our knitting shop and stuff. I was adjusting it for her because she had the tension really, really tight and it just kept pulling everything out of her hands. So I had the opportunity to spin on it on a spinning night, and it was amazing. And I was like, oh my god, this wheel is great. So if I had the chance to buy a good deal Magic Craft Rose, I would buy one. And also, I was at a sheep to shawl thing, which I filmed like 2 years ago, and it never made it into a video just because I had so much going at the time. And at that time, editing was like one of those things that I just was really struggling to get it all done. So it never made it in. We were all spinning and trying to weave a shawl together at a heritage museum in the area that has since closed. But I got the chance to spin on a minstrel, a Kromsky minstrel there, and I would like one. Again, it would have to be like the best deal in the world, because the truth is I don't really have space for another wheel, at least not right now. But both of them, when I was spinning on them, I was like, ooh, I really like this. So if I had the chance to buy one of those, I would. Okay, I remember hearing that singles should rest before plying, yet you seem, perhaps video magic, to go right into plying after the single is done. What is your theory? That's a great question, and I think it is a theory. There are a lot of people who do believe they should rest, and then that takes some of the energy out of them. Now, to me, that does not make sense. I just believe that the energy is stored no matter what, and where is it going? It's not going anywhere. And it's a little bit like hair in like curlers or in braids. So, I mean, it is hair. My theory is that the energy doesn't really go anywhere, basically. The hair just takes on the shape of the twist that you put in it if you let it rest. How do I say this? If I let it rest, and let's say the energy can go somewhere and it goes out, then I ply it, I'm putting energy back into it the opposite way, and then it would have to rest again if the energy was going to go somewhere. And I really believe that our ancestors didn't do that back in, 1455, when they were in some like horrible farm in the back of nowhere spinning on like a crazy contraption, spindle, whatever. They didn't do that. I think that's a made-up thing. I actually think there's a lot of made-up things, if you really want to know. I think when you take a single and then you ply it the opposite way, I believe that actually does remove a small amount of the energy that you were gonna allow it to lose anyway. And I think it's better to get it in its final configuration right away and then soak it. Because if you've ever worn hair curlers or braided your hair so that you get waves or any of those things, you know that if you do that with like damp or wet hair and let it dry all the way, that's what really sets a twist. That's what really puts the energy where it should be. That's what really makes the yarn, hair, wool take on the shape it's going to permanently. And so I just don't believe that it matters. And it's kind of funny because there are a lot of people who do, and then there are a lot of people who don't, and they both make amazing, beautiful yarns. If it's not really doing anything that's making a more beautiful yarn or making it more useful or making it more durable or whatever, then why would I wait? I have no patience. I don't have patience for that. Here's an interesting one, and it is, do you treadle the same when plying as spinning the single? I do. I pretty much have a natural treadling rhythm, so if I want to do anything different, occasionally I will slow myself down or speed up. I have to think about it like the whole time, and the minute I stop thinking about it, I go back to my natural rhythm. I don't know why I'm like that. I don't know if everybody's like that, but that's definitely me. I will say sometimes when I'm plying, I will just speed up on purpose. Okay, so this is about drum carding. I'm curious as to why you put some of it directly on the larger drum and why with others you feed it under the smaller one. It's a couple different reasons. Oh man, I'll try and make it simple because it's complicated how I decide. There are some fibers that, because they don't have a crimp, they don't pull off onto the larger drum as easily, like really anything like bamboo or sari silk is also very short and doesn't have a crimp, so it doesn't pull off from the smaller drum onto the larger drum as easily. It's harder for the big drum to like grab it because it's so short and make a good grab at it. So that's one of the reasons. Then I'll paint all those fibers, I'll paint directly on the big drum. Sometimes I know where I want them to be exactly, and when you run them underneath the liquor, you have less control. So then that is one reason. Trying to think what other some things are very staticky. If it's extremely staticky, a lot of times I will paint it on the big drum, because the more it rubs against other fibers, the more it rubs against the drums, the more it rubs on anything, the more static it's going to get, and it's not going to want to transfer. So those are all reasons I do that. Paint directly on the larger drum. But I will say anything that I need to detangle or straighten out in some way will go under the liquor for sure, because what happens is the liquor pulls it under more slowly, and then the big drum comes past the liquor really quickly, and it will grab a little bit of the wool and pull it hopefully pretty straight as it's transferring. Just because it's going so much faster, it will pull it straight. That's the hope. It doesn't work perfectly, but it does work pretty well if you go slow. If you are ever using any of those fibers like sari silk or also any of the sparkly fibers, and you don't want to paint them directly on your drum, you can kind of like sandwich them between layers of wool, and that works for a lot of people well too, but it's not a method I use very often because I really like really thin layers to go with. Do you have a project in mind for when all the samples are spun up, or are you just going to keep them with your notes as yarn samples? I will be keeping a small sample of each, just like a little loop. I mentioned that before. I do have a project in mind. I'm scared to death that I can't make it happen and execute it well, but I'm gonna try it. So yes, I do. It won't be long now before you guys know what it is. So you mentioned double coated and single coated. What does that mean? So that's a term used about sheep, and some sheep have wool that's pretty uniform throughout, and that doesn't mean there's not like some texture difference, but it's pretty much the same type of wool throughout, and that would be a single coated sheep. And then there are a few breeds of sheep that have an undercoat, and they don't actually say the word overcoat, but I don't know what else it's more like hair as the overcoat. Some Shetlands have double coats. Those are the more primitive, they call them, types of Shetland. And then Icelandic have that. I mean, there's just a few different breeds that have that. And you can actually go back to the breed study. If you go down to the breed study, there's a pretty good description. I think the Swaledale, it said, also had that too, if I don't misremember. So that's what it means. It means they have like a downy undercoat, like some dog coats have too, and then they also have a kind of hair-like overcoat. You talk about top and roving, and I think other things, but what is the difference? Okay, so I've been trying to figure out how to do a series on woolen worsted and why, basically, and it covers a huge range, but this is a small piece of it. So top is combed, and that means all the fibers are laying parallel, they're all going the same direction. And if you have like the true classic top, it actually also, all the butt ends and all the tip ends are going in one direction. That's not usually something that you can find anymore. You have to do that yourself. You have to hand comb it to get it that way generally, but there are some people who will not consider it top if, there's only a few, but they will not consider it top if it's not combed so that all the butts and all the tips go in the same directions. That's not me. I'm not one of those people. So I think if it's combed and they're all going in the same direction, they're also going to be more compact when you spin because there's nothing kind of coiled up in there, creating pockets of air and things like that. And then roving would be carded. That means that even though a lot of the fibers will go the same direction, they won't all go the same direction. And it's like less controlled as far as that goes. It's less kind of like pulled in the commercial versions. If they comb them, they almost like stretch them. Roving doesn't usually get that if you get it, even if you get it commercially processed. I hope that helps. I hope I answered what you meant. How can I tell which fibers are suitable for long draw? I keep trying to do it, but I need more practice. It does take a lot of practice, especially like it took me tons of practice. I just could not force myself to let go of that control up front for a long time. So it did take me a lot of practice. If you want to spin long draw, some of the things that I look for are a shorter staple. So I would say generally 4 inches or shorter, but I mean, I can go up to 5.5, but it's not as ideal. A roving is easier than a top, but the tops tend to be very compact, and the roving will just generally be easier to spin long draw because it'll be fluffy, it'll have more air in it. They all go different directions, so they grab each other and make this really beautiful fluffy yarn. It's so nice. I'm trying to a crimp. A good crimp, when I say a good crimp, a lot of crimp is easier because when you're doing that long draw and you're just pulling that out, the crimp that's in the wool will help hold it together, help pull out new fibers, help it almost getting tangled isn't, but it's like grabbing all the other ones as it twists and slides by. So those are the 3 things that I think you need if you're going to spin long draw. Ooh, and if you want a roving, a commercially prepared roving, a lot of times for long draw, RH Lindsay has them a lot. So you can even call them and they'll talk to you about what you're looking for on the phone and try to help direct you. But they often have carded, they call it carded sliver sometimes, and sometimes they call it roving, but it's, to my understanding, those are the same things. That's a good place to go if you want commercially prepared rovings. Question for your Q&A. I like this. What meal or dessert would you say is your specialty or you're most known for? So I asked John because, you know, the things that I think I make well might not be the things that everybody else is like, oh, I hope Trish makes fill in the blank. He said rhubarb pie and pumpkin bars and chocolate pumpkin cheesecake. Pumpkin bars and chocolate pumpkin cheesecake are some things that I have brought to Thanksgiving a bunch of times. And then all of our immediate family really likes the rhubarb pie. Like my dad's birthday is coming up and I'll bring him one that's all baked and then one for the freezer at his house. And then he's got it for a little while, so that's one of his favorites. Our 3 youngest kids and John and I, and really my mom too, all really like the rhubarb pies. Where on earth do you find the time? I'm in awe and you get so many gorgeous projects done. Do you ever sleep? I do. I don't sleep as much as I did a few years ago. If you're young and you can still sleep till noon, enjoy it. I would say I almost always am working on something. I neglect housekeeping. We all know that I do that in order to give myself time for crafting. I do never just sit in front of the TV without a project. And this is my job now. I get to make stuff, which is super fun and great. And it means that I have more time for crafting. I really, every minute have a project going, truly. Even when I read, I'll knit plain socks sometimes. So, or knit plain whatever, because I can knit without looking as long as it's something that like I have the muscle memory for. But thank you, that's so sweet of you. I have Lazy Kate envy. I need that in my life. What make is it? So that is a shocked Lazy Kate. It came with the matchless. I think they still come with the matchless. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 90% sure. But I think you can also buy them separate, and it's really nice because it has like a elastic tensioning cord on it. So when I want tension on my singles, I can tension the bobbins, which is really cool. And I do use that Lazy Kate for like plying with my Hanson bobbins. You can use it with big bobbins. So I recommend it, it's great. It's really good. You do need that in your life. Bath mat. It looks like it was super time intensive though. How bad was it? Okay, that's a great question. It's something I wish I had addressed in the video. It started out going really slow and I was like almost frustrated with how slow it was going. And then I was developing the muscle memory again, and I've tried 2 different ways to pull the loops up. I used a crochet hook for some of it, and then for some of it I used my fingers. I found that I was just a lot quicker with my fingers. And once I got in the rhythm, it actually went really fast because those rows are not very far apart. So I would say it's maybe 3 or 4 picks per inch. So even though you're doing, you know, the loop rows, which are kind of slow and they use so much yarn, even though you're doing that and it's kind of slow, your rows are growing really fast. So it was not that bad. I think part of the problem was in the beginning I felt clumsy, and so I would keep stopping and go to do something else. But once I got the rhythm of it, it was like, it actually went really fast. So I would say you do need some patience in the beginning. But I'm thrilled with the final product, more and more thrilled the longer I have it. So it was worth it for me. Only question. What size are the knitting needles? You say they are about 8 inches long, but what diameter or US size? I am guessing 8s. So those were 10.5s. Those are the needles that I used on the bath mat to make the loops. I grabbed 10.5s. I think I could have gone either way, just depending on how I wanted the loops to look. I think bigger ones would still be okay, but I don't think I'd go a lot bigger. And then I also could have gone smaller. So, but those were 10.5s. I apologize for not saying that. That was info that I guess I should have included. I think I was thinking at the time that everybody's preference would be different, but I think if you saw what I did and you liked it, I should have told you anyway. Can you show us how you make that twist with the skein? Yes, hang on, let me go get one. Okay, I just grabbed a hand spun hank of yarn out of my stash. This is a 2-yard hank. So I always first snap it. I don't know why I do that. I guess just to get the fibers lined up, or the strands lined up. Look, there's a sagger. It's all right. So then you take both your hands, let me get back a little, and you're gonna twist them opposite directions. So the way I do it is my right hand goes down, my left hand goes up, and you just twist in opposite directions. Okay, then I snap again to help distribute that twist, because it will tend to build up on the outer corners, and so if you snap it a little bit, it will help distribute it. And then you just keep twisting while you bring the ends together. My fingers are stuck. Why would you ask me to teach you this? Obviously I can't even do it. And you keep twisting a little bit more, because as you let the tension off, you'll have more slack to twist. And then a lot of times I'll twist more like this, and then I'll do that again because I want to move some of it to the middle. I'll take my left hand, my fingers in there, I'll close it so that it can't lose the loop. And then I'll open it with my other hand. See how I've got my other hand through now? And I put both fingers through the left and grab the right loop and pull it through. That's it. That's how you wind up your hank so that you've got a fancy looking. I have never seen bats that big. How much do those babies weigh? It's a hard one. I have squeezed up to 11 ounces on that big drum carder, but that is really challenging. So generally, I would say most of them are like between 7 and 9. If I try to fill it, it just really depends a ton on what kind of fibers I use. Because if I use something that has a lot of crimp and spring, it won't allow me to squeeze as much on because it just puffs up no matter what I do. They go from like about 7 to squeezed nightmarishly 11. Would you recommend the Kiwi 3 for a beginner, or would there be a better one for a beginner? I have not spun on a Kiwi 3. That's an Ashford, I believe. So I would recommend any Ashford for a beginner, truly. Except maybe the Country Spinner, which is one of the gigantic ones. If I was starting out all over again, I would buy the most versatile wheel I could afford, because quickly, if you take to it and you like it, spinning I mean, you're gonna want to do more. And try new things. And so the most versatile wheel that you can afford is your best bet. That's my opinion. I don't know extra about the Kiwi 3, I'm sorry, but I would say for a beginner, there's no Ashford that's not gonna be good. I always wonder how well the Kool-Aid color lasts. Does it fade any quicker than the acid dyes? Could it be used to tie-dye with kids? Okay. I have a shawl that I dyed with Kool-Aid, and I have multiple ones that I use food coloring on also. Way back, at least 10 years ago, I think that Kool-Aid does fade more quickly than acid dyes. I do not think that the food coloring fades more quickly than the acid dyes. But can it be used to tie-dye with kids? It won't really work the same on cotton. And I assume you mean tie-dye t-shirts. It won't really work the same. If you want to tie-dye t-shirts, I would recommend that you go to like a craft section in a department store, or a craft store like Michael's or Joann's or something like that, and pick up the tulip tie-dye kits. They're really affordable. They work great for tie-dyeing. Just put aprons on your kids, or put, you know, old clothes on them, because it gets everywhere and it does not go away. It's fun though. Do you plan on having a team for Tour de Fleece this year? I've been thinking a lot about it since the breed study was starting to wind down. I think, no, I'm not gonna host a team. I am really too late to start thinking about hosting a team this year. I have done it before, but I think I'm too late. For me, I actually think I would have to be registered by now. I could be wrong, but I think I might have to. But what I've been thinking is, I've been thinking about spinning and or prepping like 15 or 30 minutes a day live for Tour de Fleece. Is that crazy? You know, I was thinking yesterday, I was in the car and I was like, all right, Trish, so you're always saying if you want to get better at something, you have to practice. And I think live, I am horrendous on YouTube. I get super nervous, but I was thinking that if I was just spinning and prepping live, a lot of it would not be me talking. It would just be me working. Maybe I would get more used to it, and then I would be better at it, because I definitely need practice if I'm ever gonna go live. You know what I mean? Because I'm horrible. Horrible. I'm seriously considering going live every day at the same time for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and that'll just be my goal for the tour, just to spin or prep that amount of time every day throughout the tour. What do you guys think? Is that crazy? I won't be able to interact as much, but maybe it would be good. I hate it when you have to take your own advice. It's horrible. Ugh. Okay, could I ask where you got your drum carder, please? It's electric rather than a hand-operated one. And what is the name of the chopstick style sticks you are using to roll the fiber off the carder, please? So my electric, I think you're talking about the big one. The big one is a Brother, and I just became a dealer. I really like that carder, and if you watched the review of it, I had a little bit of trouble with it in the very beginning, and they, customer service wise, did an amazing job of helping me resolve the issue. And for me, it isn't the fact that you never have a problem, it's the fact that if you have a problem, they handle it really well. That means a lot to me. So I actually contacted them and I said, do you guys have a dealer program? Because I think I want to be a dealer. It's a Brother, I think it's called just extra large or extra wide motorized drum carder. I think it's extra wide motorized drum carder. Ooh, all right, I have Romney fleece. It's brown with tips are really sun faded, so I decided to dye it black. It didn't work. Yes, I soak it in vinegar. It washed out except the tips. So I would need to see what you did and what it looks like to figure out what went sideways. I would need to see it. And I would need to see like how much vinegar you used, all those kinds of things. Do you think you might do another video on washing and processing your raw fleeces this year? Yes, I've already filmed washing the fin fleece that I unboxed like in March. I think it was March. I am working right now on a video, I said it earlier, I'm processing with no tools to very little tools, because during the breed study we talked about a few different ways to process and spin fleeces that I haven't shown before. I just thought that was a good opportunity because some of you guys have been curious about those different methods. So that's coming really soon, and like it might be in the next week. If I can get it done, it will be. That's hopefully, fingers crossed. Have you thought about doing more live streams? I think we just covered that. I'm just scared, you guys. I'm just scared that, first of all, I'm scared nobody will show up. And then second of all, I'm scared that if I'm just sitting there trying to read and respond to comments, I don't know, what do you say live? Maybe I just feel like I just don't know what to do. Also, I ramble. What you guys don't know is that I take out a lot of my rambling when I'm editing. So I'm afraid that that is gonna be bad because I'm gonna be boring because I'll ramble and ramble and ramble. But yes, I have thought about it. That makes no sense. These are all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. But yeah, I'm thinking about it. Since I haven't dyed roving before, I am only trying little pieces. I was worried that it could go all crazy there and I would need a carder to make it spinnable, but I guess it is safe to dye roving, right? I also couldn't understand, you said you put speckles on and return the pan to simmer, but there was no water in there, or was it? Okay, so first, roving is safe to dye, but I have seen people handle fibers when they're hot with dye on them. Please don't do that, especially roving. Because the roving's going in all different directions, it is definitely more likely to like interlock the little scales, which would make it felted. But it's okay, just don't move it while it's hot. I mean, when I dye even top, I finish it and then I take the pans, you know, those pans that I use, and I carry them out to our porch and I leave them until they're room temperature to rinse. And that is the secret. Now you know the secret. So yes, go for it. And then the other one was, oh, okay, so she's talking about the speckled yarn that I dyed in a video a little bit back that came with the Kool-Aid. The yarn was wet, so my fear was that if I added water to the pan, I didn't know how quickly the Kool-Aid would set. I don't normally use Kool-Aid, so I didn't know how quickly it would set. And so my fear was if I added water, it might run. So I let it heat up pretty hot just with the wet yarn, and then I did add some water to the pan because I figured at that point it was like, well, it's either set or it's not set, but when adding this water is not going to change anything. And it was completely set by the time I added the water. It was really quick, it was fine. But you're right, there was not extra water in the pan. The yarn was wet. I covered it so it couldn't evaporate out of the pan, and then I added water as soon as it heated up. Okay, Q&A question. What's your experience with flax? I'm spinning some mainly for the experience and knowledge, but got to wonder about dyeing it. I haven't dyed it. I have spun it. I've spun a pretty fair amount of flax. Do not take this to the bank. But my understanding is that you would need fiber reactive dyes because it's a plant fiber to dye it. Last question. I was wondering about the nylon fiber from Paradise Fibers for this month, May. How did you prep it after spinning? Wash, thwack, etc. I have no idea if I should blend it with wool or what to do with it. If I blend, maybe 5-to-1, so it would be like 20% nylon to 80% wool. I have not finished that yarn yet. Will I won't wash it. I might soak it, but I won't bother washing it. I don't think it needs washing. I probably won't thwack it. So the main reason for thwacking, there's really two reasons. It's to redistribute the twist if you think the twist might be even a little bit uneven, and it will help a little. And then also, if you, I don't know how to say this, thwacking might felt the fibers a tiny bit, which is, you know, often wanted in a yarn. I won't be thwacking. I think the twist is fine and even, so I'm not worried about that. And I can't felt it because it won't felt. But I probably will soak it before I use it. And that is just because the nylon is gonna hold the energy differently, and then if I soak it and then let it dry completely, it will set the twist in it. I'm not sure if it needs it, but I probably will do that. And then also, I have no idea if I should blend it with wool or what to do with it. That's really the reason why I spun it immediately without blending it at all. I wanted to see, like, can I just spin this the way it is and how will it turn out? I have not spun the second bundle yet because I'm kind of trying to decide if I want to blend it. This is just an opinion. I think it depends on what you want to do, like what is your outcome you're looking for. Did you want to strengthen the wool with the nylon? Because it's great for that. And if that's what you want to do, I would say 20% is perfectly fine. And you just want to make it so it's not pure nylon. I think there's a little rose in it too. Then if that's the case and you're like, I just don't want to spin plain nylon, I want to blend this with wool, I think in that case you can do any blending ratio that makes you happy. That's the last question. I hope you're having fun and you're spending time making cool stuff, and I will see you really soon. Think about me this weekend because I'm kind of scared. Thanks. I love you. Bye.